You stand on the slippery deck of the Black Pearl, the air thick with salt and something suspiciously like rum vapor. Captain Jack Sparrow squints across the moonlight, his boots uneven, posture confusingly confident. Jake, well, 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 if it isn't a gilded lobster with a glow stick heart. Tony, hands on hips, helmet off. Let me guess, you're the ship's drunken mascot? Jake, incorrect. My metallic acquaintance. I'm the captain. Captain Jack? Tony. Sparrow. Yeah, I saw the eyeliner and figured you were either in a band or chasing eyeliner endorsement deals. Jake. Ah, wit. Finally, someone with a mouth as sharp as mine. Fancy a drink? Or is your suit too high maintenance for fun? Tony. Does your liver still function? That's the real mystery. You can feel the air crackle. Two minds, one powered by rum and riddles, the other by quantum mechanics and ego. Jake, tell me something, Tin Man. Ever won a battle using only charm and badly timed metaphors? Tony, no, I usually rely on the part where I don't die. Jake, overrated. Dying's just another way to exit gracefully. I do it thrice a month. Tony, so you're like a malfunctioning video game NPC? Jake, exactly. And you, I suppose, are the tutorial level boss, flashy, loud, and easily reset. Tony chuckles. His arc reactor pulses softly. Tony, all right, pirate, let's settle this. Who's cleverer? You with your fermented brain water, or me with a literal supercomputer in my head? Jake, depends. Can your supercomputer handle nautical sarcasm and sea-bound paradoxes? Tony, try me. Jake leans against the mast, pulling a bottle from his coat like it's been waiting for this moment. Jake, all right then. If a ship leaves Tortuga on a Tuesday and another ship sails from Port Royal the next morning, Tony. Stop. I'm not doing pirate math. That's just an excuse to drink more. Jake, you warned me. It was a logic test, but you failed before the first cannonball. Tony, okay, Mr. Sass Scarf, let's reverse it. If I told you I could create a holographic simulation of the moon, fool an entire fleet into sailing off course, and use one drone to disable your entire crew. Jake, I'd say you're in desperate need of a vacation and maybe a parrot, or at least a decorative sash. Tony, that's not cleverness, that's costuming. Jake, and yet I cost less and confuse more. Who wins now? Historical fun fact. Pirates often used coded songs and lantern signals to communicate, so confusing and complex that even British naval captains once documented their inability to interpret them. Tony, let me guess. You baffle your enemies into submission. Jake, exactly. I speak in riddles, swagger, and threats that may or may not involve cursed gold. Tony, cool story. I fly. Jake, how terribly pedestrian. Tony, I literally soar at Mach 3. Jake, yes, but can you do this? Jake stumbles forward, does a spin, pretends to fall, then somehow unsheathes a cutlass mid-collapse and ends upright with a grin. Honestly, you have no idea how. Tony, you do circus tricks? Jake, I do distraction. Tony, I do lasers. Jake, I do manipulation. Tony, I do suits that think faster than most humans. Jake, and yet here you are, trying to win a word fight with a man who forgot what day it is, intentionally. Fringe tidbit for you. There's still debate among historians whether Jack Ward, the real-life inspiration for Sparrow, actually faked his madness just to dodge political execution. Smart or just lucky? Historians still argue whether it was brilliance or bluff. Tony, rubbing temples. Are you sure you're not just accidentally winning this? Jake, but that's the magic. Accidental victory tastes just as sweet as deliberate conquest. Tony, you speak in fortune cookies. Jake, you speak in diagnostics. The boat sways, and Tony braces himself. Jake, however, rides it like he is the ocean. Tony notices. Tony, how do you always stay on your feet? Jake, I don't fight the sea. I flirt with it. Tony, okay, I admit that was Actually kind of profound. Jake, careful, Iron Britches. Compliments make me suspicious. Tony, you win round one, but don't think this is over. Jake, oh, I never think. That's what makes me dangerous. As the wind whistles through the rigging, both men smirk like boys about to throw rocks at each other's sandcastles. Tony Stark isn't used to losing, especially not to someone who smells like rum-soaked rope and carries beads in his hair like he raided a craft store mid-hurricane. He adjusts his arc reactor with an annoyed hum, metal fingertips tapping against his thigh like a nervous tick. Tony, all right, pirate. Let's say round one was charity. You won because I was jet-lagged. Jake, jet-lagged? We're on the ocean. No jets, just lag. Tony, don't start with word games again. Jake, start? My dear golden kettle, I live in them. You settle into a barrel nearby because, honestly, this is better than any reality TV. Two grown men, well, one grown billionaire genius and one pirate catastrophe, are now locked in what can only be described as verbal fencing with foam swords dipped in sarcasm. Tony, fine. Let's up the stakes. I ask you something. You answer. Then you ask me something. Whoever flinches, loses. Jake, a duel of questions, like chess with less patience. Very well. Tony smirks and activates a hologram from his wrist. A complex 3D model of a reactor core spins in the air, glowing blue. Tony, this miniature arc reactor, created it in a cave, under duress, saved my life. Jake, touching. You've had your heart replaced by a nightlight. Tony, now explain how, in 2005, you managed to escape a fortress guarded by 60 British troops using only a spoon, a goat, and a misunderstanding about someone's wife. Jake blinks, then grins. Jake, yes, her name was Beatrice. The spoon was not technically involved, except emotionally. The goat was more of a decoy. As for the misunderstanding, well, it's amazing how fast people run when you shout, "He's got the cursed map." Tony stares, then slow clap. Tony, okay, that was insane. My turn. He waves again, and the hologram becomes a high-tech schematic of the Mark 42 suit. Tony, can fly, lift 100 tons, and play AC/DC through Dolby Surround. Can you do that? Jake, I once convinced a kraken to change its dinner plans. Same energy. Tony, you're impossible. Jake, thank you. Mainstream historical note. In 1697, the infamous pirate Henry Every captured the Ganjai Sawai, a Mughal treasure ship, using nothing but strategic intimidation and superior maneuvering. Some say he didn't fire a single shot. Tony, next question. How many ships have you sunk with math? Jake, none. But I've sunk men with metaphor. Tony, that's not real strategy. Jake, tell that to Admiral Dandycoat. I told him his cannonballs were overcompensating. He fired wildly, missed me, and hit his own ship. Tony, that didn't happen. Jake, historians still argue whether it did or didn't. But his crew remembers it. Most of them anyway. Tony shakes his head. Tony, you know, I could scan your brain right now, find the one cell doing all the work. Jake, and I could steal your socks while you monologue. We all have gifts. Tony, all right, pirate riddle time. Let's test logic. You're trapped in a locked room. No doors, no windows. Only a mirror and a table. What do you do? Jake, easy. Look in the mirror, see what I saw, take the saw, cut the table in half, 2 halves make a hole. Climb through the hole. Tony freezes. Tony, how did you know that? Jake, darling, I am the locked room. Quirky tidbit time. The real Edward Teach, Blackbeard, once tied slow-burning fuses into his beard and lit them during battles to create an aura of fire and smoke. Why? Pure intimidation. No one really knows if it actually helped. But it sure looked cool. Tony, let me tell you something. Your entire personality is like a fever dream with a sword. Jake, and your personality is a board meeting that exploded. Tony. Okay, last round. Winner takes cleverest. Jake. Let's dance. Tony gestures dramatically. Tony. Explain quantum entanglement without using the words quantum or entanglement. Jake rubs his chin. Jake. Two drunk mates in different taverns get punched at the exact same time because their bar fights are secretly married. Tony actually chuckles, then sighs. Tony. Not entirely wrong. Jake. Now you. Define charisma using math. Tony pauses. This is clearly not his forte. Tony. Charisma is the ratio of confidence over logic multiplied by swagger divided by social risk. Jake. I accept that. They both lean on opposite masts, like duelists taking a breath. Around them, the ship creaks in the rising tide. Jake. You know, for a man of science, you're not entirely without flair. Tony. And for a man who smells like cannonballs and despair, you're weirdly resourceful. Jake. Don't get soft on me now, Stark. There's still one card left in my coat. Tony. Oh, I'm sure. Something involving parrots and metaphors? Jake. No, a story, but it'll cost you one more round. Tony nods, intrigued despite himself. The night deepens, the sea hums its endless lullaby, and you find yourself caught in the ebb and flow of a battle, not of swords, but of minds. Sparrow's eyes gleam like twin lanterns swaying in the storm, while Tony's face is half shadow, half amusement. Jake. Let me tell you a story, Stark. Once, a captain was caught in a net woven tighter than a banker's schedule. No way out, save one. A trick so bold, it'd make a madman shiver. Tony, you're setting up for one of your infamous, impossible escapes, aren't you? Jake, only if you're clever enough to see it coming. You lean closer, drawn in by the rhythm of Jake's voice, which feels like the slow lapping of waves, soft, but impossible to ignore. Jake, there was a treasure map, half burnt, leading to a hoard no man believed real. The captain claimed it was cursed, but used it anyway. When the fleet closed in, he did something brilliant. He handed the map to a rival captain, Tony. Wait, he just gave away the map? Jake, exactly. But here's the twist. The map was a fake. The real treasure lay in the rival's ship. The captain knew his enemy better than he knew himself. Tony. So the greatest trick was convincing the enemy to take the bait? Jake. And not just take it, celebrate it. Pride's a dangerous thing, Stark. Tony. Sounds like you're describing yourself. Jake laughs, a low rumble that feels like thunder rolling across the water. Jake. I do love a good bait and switch, but the question is, how do you prove cleverness? Through force or finesse? Tony taps his arc reactor thoughtfully. Tony, finesse wins wars these days. Tech, information, precision. Jake, yet you stand here talking to a man who survived by bluff, charm, and the occasional well-timed insult. Tony, you're a wild card. Jake, and wild cards tend to win when the rules get too tight. You watch as Tony nods slowly, conceding ground without admitting defeat. There's a flicker of respect, buried deep beneath his usual sarcasm. Tony, okay, you win the argument, but let's see if you can back it up. He steps forward, extending a gauntleted hand. Sparrow eyes it, then shakes it with a grin that promises more chaos. Jake, deal. But remember, pirates don't follow rules. We rewrite them. Quirky fact. Pirates sometimes used false flags, flying the enemy's colors to confuse foes before striking. It was trickery over brute force, psychological warfare on the high seas. Historians still argue whether this tactic was widespread or just an occasional gambit. Tony's suit emits a soft beep, scanning the ship, analyzing every plank and sail. Tony, your ship's sensors wouldn't stand a chance against my tech. Jake, but your tech can't measure the value of unpredictability. A sudden gust shakes the rigging. You hear the creak of old wood, the distant call of a night bird. The world seems to slow. Jake, here's my final move, Stark. It's not about who's smarter. It's about who knows when to use their smarts. Tony. All right, impress me. Jake pulls from his coat a simple, battered compass. Jake. This compass? Broke, pointed the wrong way. But it saved my life. Tony. How? Jake. Because I followed the stars instead. You think about that, the stubborn pirate, navigating by ancient light, ignoring the broken compass, trusting instinct over instruments. Tony. Sometimes you have to trust the old ways. Jake. And sometimes the new ways need a touch of madness. They both share a laugh, the kind that fills a room or a ship with warmth. Tony. I'll admit, Sparrow, you're cleverer than I thought. Jake. And you're not just a talking tin can, you've got heart. Tony. So, who's cleverer? Jake. I am. Tony. Grinning. Fine, you win. But next time, I'm bringing a bigger suit. You exhale, feeling the tension melt into camaraderie. Two worlds collided, words as weapons, laughter as shields. Historical note. The age of sail was as much about cunning as cannonballs. Admirals won battles with trickery, deception, and mind games, sometimes more than brute force. Fringe tidbit. Some say Jack Sparrow's cleverness comes from making friends with mythic creatures and bargained favors from the sea itself. Whether fact or folklore. Historians still argue. The moon slips behind a cloud. The ocean's song grows softer. And somewhere between rum and repulses, you realize cleverness isn't about winning. It's about knowing when to laugh and when to let go.